Let us continue with our lesson, and we have built a design already. So let's go to the task detail, not the view model. We should go to the task detail fragment over here. And if you check that we have one observable that we are observing each editable, and based on that the true and false value. If it is true, then we are going to show that edit, and if it is false, then we're going to hide. So what we will do is we'll go to the task detail view model. So that is from the view model task and task detail view model. And let us change this or rename to, let's say, each valid, HVALID valid user. So if it is a valid user. And let me just copy this one and rename over here, and also to the task detail fragment. So let's rename this one. So what I will do is I will just go back to my view and get the name, so fb delete, right, and go back to the task detail fragment, and over here I will just say that just copy the whole thing, the visibility, and just paste it over here. So that should be able to hide all of our fab delete as well as the fab edit based on the is valid user observable. So we are observing the live data over here. And let's run our application and let's try to test it out. So I'm logged into the app already, and if we go over here, we can see that particular button which is of delete as well as the edit. And let's find the task that was not created by this particular user. So task from the user 2, and we should see that both of these both of this button has been gone. So that's great. And let's go back. And what we will do next is we need to implement the delete function. So what we will do is in the task detail view model, we need a task repository, and where is our task repository? If you go to the model, and yeah, the task repository over here. So the task repository, we have to pass the network service as well as the app database in order to access these two methods. So we'll go to the edit task, and we'll just copy the required things that we need. We just need the first one, and we will go on to the top somewhere here, and let us paste that one. And okay, so the network service is already there. And next is we will need we don't need the edit task, we need a delete task repository. So let's create, let me create a private variable over here. So private val, and this should be a delete task repository, right? So we need a delete task repository which is of delete task repository delete task repository. And I think we create a let init var first, let init var. And if you go back, then we need something. Okay, let's go. And what we need is, we need to implement this particular over here. So what I will do is I will go to this view model, and over here I will just say delete task repository, which is of delete task repository. And what we need to pass over here is network service that we have over here. And the second is that we need to pass the app database. So we also need the app database, and if you go over here, we have this one. We just select this one and just copy and paste it over here. So add it. Okay, so we have a delete task repository, and we will create a one function. Let's go down, and I will say a function, and we'll call it as a delete task. And let me go over here, and let us make use of a view model scope dot launch, and we will launch the view model scope over here. And inside the scope, I will call this particularly this function, which is of a delete task repository dot, and delete from the API first. So delete from the API, and we need to pass the token. So let's go back, and we need a token. Just copy this, and let me go over here and paste it over here. The token we need, so let's copy it from here. So where's that token? Where is the token? Okay, so token is over here. Just copy this one and paste it somewhere below here. Okay, so we have a token, and now we can pass the token, right? And the second parameter that we have to pass the delete request. So that should be of the delete request, and we need to pass the particular ID. So currently what we will do is whenever we click on the particular button, we should get the ID. So this is the ID that we have to pass. So that should be of the ID over here, right? So I will make use of that ID over here. ID dot value, and we just pass it a not now. So if it was successful, then okay, let me go to network service. That's returning the task response. So we need to get the task response. And now if go to over here view model, and I will just say val, and I will say response response is equals to this one. So we have a response, and if the response was successful, right? So if the response was successful, we will check if response, right? So if task response dot, you can get the code is of equals to 200, which was successful, and then we will go and call this function, which is of delete task repository dot delete from API, and we will pass the task entity over here. So in the task entity we have to create. The first thing is if you go to the local and the entity, task entity, first thing we have to pass is the ID. So ID is auto-generated, and we'll pass the task ID. So if you go over here, I will pass the task ID, and that should be from the response, right? So I will say as a response dot body dot, I will get the ID. So response.body.id, and it should be safe call. We add a safe call, and we have to pass it as a not now. Or else what we can do is what we can check over here is, let's say response, right? We have a response dot body, and I can check over here response dot body. If it is not null, then I will just say run this particular command. So if it is not null, then we will go and run this command, run this code, and task ID is equals to, I will just say that this dot ID, and after task ID we have to pass, let me go over here, task ID, title, body, and status. So we need to pass the title, which is of this dot title, and we have a body which is of this dot body, and next what we have is a body status user ID. So need to pass the status, which is of equals to this dot status, and we have a user ID, which is of this dot user ID, and created add, which is of this dot created add, and updated add, which is of this dot updated add. And I think that's all that we need. We don't have to pass the busy color, which is by default the 0. Okay, so we have created that one, and that should pass. And over here I will just get the, let's say, val, and the val which is of the uh, result is equals to, we will pass this one. So we have the result over here, and we will just log that result. So log, sorry, log log the debug and tag, and now what we will pass is the result. So result that we are getting back from over here when we delete. So how many rows were deleted, we will get that over here. So which it is the integer value. So I'll just say that result dot toString. So or else we can also pass it over here something like deleted row, and I'll just call this particular string template over here, and dollar, and the sorry, call it brace, and over here I'll just remove the toString and just close that particular, and that should be done. Okay, and that's look fine. And I think we can remove this one because we are not calling any function. So that should define deleted row, and how many rows were deleted, that will particularly get from here. So the over here I think that should be fine. So we just have to call it delete tags and test it out. Let's do it in the next lecture. Till then, have a great day.